The airport terminal buzzed with the familiar chaos of early morning travel as I made my way through security, my carry-on bag bumping against my hip with each step. 1 year since I had signed the divorce papers with trembling hands and walked away from Luca Moretti, from the life I had built with him, from the woman I had been when I loved him. My name was Isabella Chen now. Well, it had always been Isabella Chen, but for 5 years I had been Isabella Moretti, and the absence of that name still felt like a phantom limb, something missing that I could still feel, even though it was gone. I checked my boarding pass for the 100th time. Flight 743 to Rome, seat 12A, window seat, which I had specifically requested because I needed the ability to look away, to have somewhere to focus that was not other passengers, not memories, not the constant mental replay of everything I had lost. Rome, the city where Luca and I had honeymooned 7 years ago, where he had promised me forever in a small church overlooking the Tiber, where I had believed love was enough to overcome anything, even the dark world he inhabited. I was going back for work now. A consulting contract with a tech firm expanding into European markets. Clean, legal, completely separate from the life I had left behind. Isabella Chen, business consultant, building a new identity from the ashes of Isabella Moretti, mob wife. The gate area was crowded. I found a seat near the window, pulled out my laptop, and tried to focus on the presentation I would be giving in 2 days. But the words blurred on the screen, my mind drifting despite my determination to stay present. 1 year ago today, I had packed 3 suitcases while Luca was meeting with his underboss about a shipping contract. I had left a note on our bed. Simple, direct, devastating. I cannot do this anymore. I am sorry. Please do not look for me. And then I had disappeared into the protection of my brother's house, into the safe harbor of family, who had warned me from the beginning that loving Luca Moretti would break me. They had been right, just not in the way they expected. Boarding began with first class. I watched the privileged few disappear down the jetway, wondering what their lives looked like, whether any of them carried the weight I did, the knowledge of exactly how dark the world could be. My boarding group was called. I joined the line, shuffled forward with my fellow travelers, handed my boarding pass to the attendant who smiled automatically and wished me a pleasant flight. The plane was a wide-body aircraft, 3 seats on each side of the aisle. I located row 12, hefted my bag into the overhead compartment, and slid into seat A, immediately angling my body toward the window. The less eye contact, the better. The fewer conversations with strangers, the safer I felt. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through emails I had already read, anything to look busy and unapproachable. The middle seat beside me remained empty as other passengers filed past. Good. Maybe I would have extra space. Maybe this flight would be as uneventful as I desperately needed it to be. I heard him before I saw him. That voice, deep and smooth with just a hint of Italian accent coloring his perfect English. A voice that had whispered promises in the dark, given orders that terrified me, said my name like a prayer and a curse in equal measure. Excuse me. I believe I have the seat beside you. Time stopped. My phone slipped from suddenly nerveless fingers, clattering onto the tray table. I looked up slowly, certain I was hallucinating, certain that my grief and guilt had finally manifested into full delusion. But he was real. Luca Moretti stood in the aisle, a leather carry-on in one hand, wearing dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that made his gray eyes even more striking. Those eyes that I had loved and feared in equal measure. Those eyes that were now staring at me with an expression I could not decipher. Isabella. He said my name like he was testing it, like he could not quite believe I was real either. I could not speak, could not move, could only stare at my ex-husband, the man I had divorced exactly 1 year ago today, the man I had not seen or spoken to since I left that note on our bed, the man who was apparently sitting in seat 12B, directly beside me, on a flight to Rome, the city where we had promised forever. This could not be happening. May I sit? Luca asked when I did not respond. His voice was carefully neutral, but I caught the tension in his shoulders, the way his free hand clenched and released at his side. I nodded mutely, because what else could I do? Demand he move? Cause a scene? Jump off the plane? He settled into the middle seat with the grace of someone accustomed to commanding space. His cologne reached me immediately, familiar, that same scent that used to cling to my skin after he held me. The smell of home and heartbreak. I pressed myself against the window, trying to make my body as small as possible, trying to create distance in the few inches available. The flight attendant appeared, offering drinks and smiles. Luca ordered scotch, neat, his usual. I asked for water, not trusting my voice to manage anything more complicated. When she left, silence stretched between us, heavy, loaded with a year of absence and 7 years of history before that. "I did not know you would be on this flight," Luca said finally, his voice low. "I swear to you I did not plan this." I turned to look at him properly for the first time. He looked different, older, though only a year had passed. The lines around his eyes were deeper. His hair had more gray at the temples. He looked like a man who had been through something difficult. Good. Part of me was viciously glad he had suffered, that walking away from me had not been easy or painless. But mostly, I just hurt. Looking at him hurt. Being this close hurt. Smelling his cologne and hearing his voice and remembering everything we had been hurt, with a physical ache that took my breath away. "What are you doing on this flight?" I asked, my voice coming out rougher than intended. "Going to Rome? Business?" The answer was clipped. "You?" "Same. Business." He nodded, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, then closed it again, accepted the scotch from the flight attendant when she returned, took a long drink. The plane began to taxi. The flight attendants went through safety procedures I had heard 100 times. I stared out the window, watching the ground crew, the other planes, anything to avoid looking at the man beside me. We took off. The acceleration pressed me back into my seat. Luca's hand gripped the armrest between us, his knuckles white. He had always hated takeoff, one of the few things that made him nervous. My hand moved before my brain could stop it, covered his on the armrest, squeezed once. Muscle memory. Comfort offered automatically after years of doing exactly this on every flight we had taken together. He went absolutely still. I snatched my hand back, mortified. "Sorry," I whispered. "Habit. Do not apologize." Luca's voice was rough. "Please, never apologize for kindness." The plane leveled out. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Around us, passengers settled in for the 8-hour flight to Rome. 8 hours. I was trapped in a metal tube at 30,000 feet with my ex-husband for 8 hours. I pulled out my laptop, opened the presentation I had been working on, stared at the screen without seeing a single word. "How have you been?" Luca asked after several minutes of silence. "Fine." The lie was automatic. "Good. Working. Staying busy." I heard. "You started your own consulting firm." He paused. "I am proud of you. That takes courage." I turned to stare at him. "How do you know that?" He had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "I may have checked on you. Occasionally. Just to ensure you were safe, that you had what you needed. You were watching me." Anger cut through the shock. "After I explicitly asked you not to look for me, watching is not the word I would use." Luca's jaw tightened. "I respected your wish to be left alone. I did not contact you, did not interfere in your life, but I needed to know you were okay. That is not the same as watching. You have no right to know if I am okay." I closed my laptop with more force than necessary. "You lost that right when I walked away." "I know." His voice was quiet, defeated. "You are absolutely right. I am sorry." The apology caught me off guard. Luca Moretti did not apologize, did not admit fault, did not back down. Yet here he was, conceding without argument. "Why are you really on this flight?" I demanded. "Of all the flights to Rome, all the days and times. How do you end up in the seat next to me exactly 1 year after our divorce? Truly? Pure coincidence." Luca turned to face me fully. "I am meeting with potential business partners in Rome. I booked this flight 3 weeks ago. I had no idea you would be here. No way of knowing." I wanted to disbelieve him, wanted to see manipulation, strategy, some elaborate plan, but I saw only tired sincerity. "I am consulting for a tech firm," I heard myself explaining. "They are expanding into Europe. I am helping with market entry strategy." "That sounds perfect for you." Luca's slight smile was genuine. "You always loved that work, building frameworks, analyzing markets. I remember you staying up late, running scenarios, so excited about solving complex problems." The memory hit me like a physical blow. Yes, he remembered. Remembered details about who I was beyond just his wife. Remembered the woman I had been before his world had slowly consumed everything else. "Do you remember why we got divorced, Luca?" I asked quietly. "Why I left?" His expression shuddered. "Every day, every moment. It is all I think about." "Tell me then." I needed to hear him say it. "What did I write in that note?" "You said you could not do it anymore." His voice was barely audible. "That you were sorry, that I should not look for you. And do you know what it was? What I could not do anymore?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said softly, "Living in fear. Being married to my world. Watching me become someone you did not recognize. Close." I corrected. "I could not watch you die. Could not be the woman waiting at home wondering if you would come back, or if I would get a phone call. Could not live with the knowledge that loving you meant accepting violence as normal. I told you I would always come home." Luca's hand reached toward me, then dropped. I promised you I would be careful. You were in the hospital twice that last year. I turned away, staring out the window at the clouds below. Twice. Gunshot wound to the shoulder, knife wound to the ribs. And you told me not to worry. Told me it was just business, just part of the life. It was. Luca's voice hardened. I never lied to you about what I do, what my family does. You knew when you married me. I knew in theory. I snapped back. I did not know what it would feel like in practice. Did not know I would spend every night terrified. Every phone call certain it would be someone telling me you were dead. I did not know love would feel like slowly drowning. So you left. It was not an accusation, just a statement of fact. So I left. I confirmed. Because staying was killing me, and you were so deep in your world that you could not even see it. Silence again. Heavier now. Weighted with truths that could not be taken back. The flight attendant came through offering meals. We both declined. Neither of us could eat through the tension. I should tell you something, Luca said after the meal service passed. I am not the same man you left a year ago. People do not change. The bitterness in my voice was sharp. Especially not people like you. You are wrong. He turned to face me fully. I have spent the past year proving you wrong. I made a dismissive sound. What, you got therapy? Joined a support group for mob bosses trying to reform? Actually, yes. His response shocked me. Not the support group, but the therapy. Twice a week for the past 11 months. I stared at him. You are in therapy. I am in therapy, he confirmed. Because you were right. I was so deep in my world I could not see what it was doing to you. Could not see that my life was destroying the person I loved most. Words are cheap, Luca. I wrapped my arms around myself. You can tell yourself you have changed. Can tell me. Does not make it true. I know. He leaned back in his seat. Which is why I have spent the year backing up the words with actions. Restructuring my family's operations, reducing violence, building legitimate businesses, getting out of the trades that required the most danger. And, I challenged, are you out? Completely legitimate? No more violence? No more danger? No more being the man I could not watch die? No. The honesty was stark. I will probably never be completely legitimate. The past cannot be erased. But I am much closer than I was, and the danger has reduced dramatically. So you are still doing illegal things, still putting yourself at risk, still living the life I could not be part of. Less. Luca's intensity was focused entirely on me, significantly less. And if you wanted, if you gave me the chance, I could show you, let you see the changes, prove that I heard you, that I finally understood what you were trying to tell me. Why? I demanded. Why go through all of that? We are divorced, Luca. Over. Done. Why change now? Because losing you broke me. His voice cracked. Because I spent a year trying to function without you and realized I had built my entire world wrong, that I had prioritized the wrong things, that I had let fear of losing power make me lose the only thing that actually mattered. Tears threatened, and I blinked them back furiously. You do not get to do this. Do not get to show up 1 year later and tell me you have changed, that you are better now. Where was this man when I was begging you to choose me over the family business? Where was this realization when I was crying myself to sleep because I was so scared you would not come home? He deserves better, Luca said quietly. You deserved better than I was capable of being, and I know it is too late. I know I destroyed what we had, but I wanted you to know, needed you to know, that you were not wrong, that your pain was valid, that I failed you catastrophically. The tears spilled over despite my efforts to contain them. A flight attendant noticed, brought me tissues with a sympathetic smile. I accepted them mutely, dabbing at my eyes. I mourned you, I whispered. Even though you were alive, I mourned you like you had died. Because the man I married, the man I fell in love with, he was gone, consumed by the Moretti family obligations. And I could not save him because he did not want to be saved. I know. Luca's own eyes were suspiciously bright. I felt it happening, felt myself disappearing into the role I was supposed to play. But I convinced myself it was necessary, that I was protecting you by being stronger, more ruthless, more willing to do whatever the family required. You were protecting your position, I corrected. Not me. Me. You could have protected by walking away, by choosing a different life. But you would not do that because being Luca Moretti, head of the family, mattered more than being my husband. You are right. The admission seemed to cost him. You are absolutely right. And I am sorrier than I have words to express. If you have been enjoying this emotional journey so far, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss what happens when Isabella must decide if 1 year is enough time for genuine change or if some betrayals cut too deep to heal. We sat in painful silence for a long time. The plane hummed around us, a constant white noise backdrop to the wreckage of our marriage being laid bare between us. "Can I ask you something?" Luca finally broke the silence. "And you can refuse to answer. But I need to know. What? Have you been happy? This past year without me? Have you found the peace you were looking for?" I considered lying. Considered telling him I was blissfully happy, that leaving him was the best decision I ever made, that I had not thought about him once in 365 days. But we were 30,000 feet up, trapped together, and maybe altitude made people honest. Or maybe I was just tired of pretending. "I have been surviving," I said finally. "Building a new life, figuring out who Isabella Chen is when she is not trying to be Isabella Moretti. It has not been happy, but it has been mine. Does that make sense?" "Completely." Luca's understanding was evident. "I have been doing the same. Surviving, building, trying to become someone who could deserve a second chance if one was ever offered. Is that what you want?" I looked at him directly. "A second chance? To try again?" "I want." He paused, choosing words carefully. "I want you to be happy, genuinely happy. If that is without me, I will learn to accept it. But yes, if there was any possibility, any scenario where you could feel safe loving me again, I would want that more than anything." "Love was not the problem," I said softly. "I loved you so much it consumed me. The problem was that loving you meant accepting I might lose you violently. That was the part I could not survive." "I know." Luca's hand moved to the armrest between us, palm up, an offering, not a demand. "And I have spent a year trying to build a life where that fear has less basis in reality, where loving me does not mean constant terror." I stared at his hand, that familiar hand that had held mine through wedding vows and hospital waiting rooms and quiet mornings in bed. The hand that had also signed contracts I did not want to know about, had shaken on deals that made my skin crawl, had built an empire I could not be part of. "Tell me about the changes." I did not take his hand. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I was willing to listen. Specifically, what did you actually do? Over the next hour, Luca detailed the transformation of his organization, how he had systematically sold off the most violent operations, how he had moved family money into legitimate businesses, real estate development, import-export companies that actually imported and exported legal goods, tech investments. He talked about the resistance he had faced from traditionalists in the family, about the 3 attempts on his life from rivals who saw reform as weakness, about the losses he had accepted, both financial and political, to move toward legitimacy. He pulled out his phone, showed me documentation, business licenses, tax returns showing legitimate income, articles about the Moretti family's pivot toward legitimate enterprise, complete with skeptical analysis from crime reporters. "This does not erase the past," I said when he finished. "Does not undo the things that were done, the people who were hurt. No." Luca's voice was heavy. "It does not. The past is permanent. I cannot undo it, can only try to build a different future." "And the therapy?" I asked. "What does that look like for someone like you?" A smile ghosted across his face. "Uncomfortable mostly. My therapist does not let me hide behind justifications, makes me examine why I do what I do, why I choose power over people, why I built my identity around being needed and feared instead of loved. He has been helping me understand that my father's death when I was 23 locked me into patterns that were self-destructive, that I confused being strong with being alone, that asking for help felt like weakness when it was actually the bravest thing I could do. Who is this man?" I studied his face. "And what have you done with Luca Moretti?" "I am still here." Luca's voice was soft. "Just trying to be a better version. One that might be worthy of you if I am very lucky and work very hard. You hurt me." The words came out broken. "Hurt me so badly I did not think I would survive it. Do you understand that? How much you broke when you chose the family over me, again and again? I do now." His eyes held mine. "At the time, I told myself I was making necessary choices, that you would understand eventually, that loving you meant providing for you, protecting you through power and money and control. But that was all self-serving bullshit. What you needed was for me to show up, to be present, to choose you over every other obligation, and I could not do that, was not capable of it then. And now?" I challenged. "Are you capable now?" "I want to be." Luca's honesty was devastating. "I have built tools, have support systems, have accountability, but I cannot promise perfection, can only promise genuine effort and immediate repair when I fail. That is more honest than you have ever been with me," I acknowledged. "Therapy." He almost smiled. "Turns out lying to yourself makes lying to others easier, working on being honest with myself first." We fell silent again. I looked out the window at the endless blue sky, trying to process everything he had told me, trying to reconcile this man beside me with the one I had left. The flight attendant announced we were beginning our descent into Rome. 4 hours had passed in what felt like minutes and years simultaneously. "I have a proposal," Luca said as we buckled our seatbelts. "And you can say no, but I am in Rome for 3 days. You are here for at least 2 based on your return flight. Would you be willing to have dinner with me? 1 meal. Let me show you more of what I have built. Give me the chance to prove this is real." I should have said no, should have maintained boundaries, should have protected myself from the possibility of being hurt again. But a treacherous part of my heart, the part that had never stopped loving him, whispered that maybe people could change, that maybe a year was enough time for genuine transformation, that maybe second chances were possible for those willing to do the work. 1 dinner. I heard myself agree. Public place. I meet you there. And Luca, if this is manipulation, if you are playing some long game I do not see, I will walk away and never look back. Understood. Relief was evident in his voice. Thank you, Isabella. For this chance, I will not waste it. The plane touched down in Rome. We deplaned separately, Luca letting me go first, maintaining distance. But as I walked through the terminal, I felt his presence behind me. Not threatening, just there. At baggage claim, he approached carefully. "My hotel is sending a car. I can drop you if your hotel is on the way. I have a car arranged." I kept my voice professional. "What restaurant?" "For tomorrow night? There is a place near the Trevi Fountain. Small, family-owned. We went there on our honeymoon." He watched my face. "If that is too painful, we can go somewhere else." The memory of that restaurant hit me. We had stumbled upon it by accident, no reservation, and the owner had taken pity on us, squeezing us into a tiny table in the corner. We had shared pasta and wine and laughed until our sides hurt. It had been perfect, before everything went wrong. "That place is fine," I said, though my voice wavered. 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock, Luca confirmed. "Isabella, truly, thank you." I nodded and turned away before I could change my mind, before I could see the hope in his eyes, and let it become my hope too. My hotel was beautiful, elegant, overlooking the Spanish Steps. I checked in, went to my room, and stood at the window looking out at the ancient city, the city where I had promised forever to a man who had broken my heart, the city where I was now considering giving him a second chance. My phone buzzed, a text from my brother Michael. "How was the flight?" I stared at the message, wondering how to answer. Should I tell him that my ex-husband had been seated next to me? That we had talked for hours? That I had agreed to have dinner with him tomorrow? Michael had been the one to help me leave, had provided the safe space where I could grieve and heal. He would lose his mind if he knew I was even considering reconciliation. "Flight was fine," I typed back. "Hotel is beautiful. Jet-lagged but good." The lie sat uncomfortably, but I needed to figure out what I was doing before I could explain it to anyone else. That night, I tried to sleep, but memories kept me awake. Luca and I in this city 7 years ago. Young and in love and certain nothing could touch us. We had been so naive, so convinced that love was enough to overcome anything. When had that stopped being true? When had his work begun consuming everything else? I replayed our marriage in my mind, looking for the exact moment it had broken. There was no single moment, just a slow erosion. Missed dinners became normal. Danger became routine. His increasing absence, both physical and emotional, became the reality I learned to live with, until I could not anymore. Until the fear had become so consuming that I could not breathe. Until I realized I was losing myself trying to be what he needed while he gave me less and less of himself in return. I had left to survive, had walked away from love because love was killing me. Could someone really change that much in a year? Could Luca genuinely have become a different man? Or was I just desperate to believe it because some part of me had never stopped hoping? The next day passed in a blur of meetings with the tech firm I was consulting for. I presented my market analysis, answered questions, made recommendations, professional, competent, giving no indication that my mind was elsewhere. At 6 o'clock, I returned to my hotel to change for dinner. I stared at my reflection, debating what to wear. This was not a date. This was a fact-finding mission, a chance to verify Luca's claims about change. But I still put on the blue dress he had always loved, still did my makeup carefully, still wore the perfume he had given me on our first anniversary, the bottle I had kept despite everything. I walked to the restaurant, needing the time to clear my head. Rome was beautiful in the evening light, tourists and locals mingling on ancient streets. The city was eternal, had seen empires rise and fall. My personal drama was insignificant in the context of all this history. The thought was oddly comforting. Luca was already seated when I arrived. He stood as I approached, this small gesture of respect I had not expected. He wore a dark suit, no tie, looked every inch the successful businessman. Nothing about him suggested danger or criminality, but I knew better, knew what lay beneath the polished exterior. "You came." He said it like he had not quite believed I would. I said I would. I slid into the seat across from him. I keep my promises. The barb landed. I saw him flinch slightly. "Yes, you always did. Unlike me." The owner appeared, greeted us warmly, clearly remembered us from years ago. He complimented how wonderful it was to see us again, how marriage suited us, how love was beautiful to witness. Neither Luca nor I corrected him about the divorce. It felt too complicated to explain. We ordered the same dishes we had shared on our honeymoon. The owner beamed, delighted by the romance of it, and bustled off to the kitchen. "Thank you for coming," Luca said when we were alone. "I know how difficult this must be. Tell me about your average day." I decided to start with something concrete. "Now, in your new life, what does it look like?" For the next hour, Luca described his transformed existence. He woke early, went to therapy twice a week before work. His days were filled with legitimate business meetings, real estate developments, tech investments, import-export operations that were actually legal. He had hired managers to handle day-to-day operations of the family's remaining gray area businesses, was systematically transitioning those as well toward legitimacy, was building something his future children, if he ever had them, might be proud of instead of ashamed of. He attended family dinners where his choices were criticized, dealt with uncles and cousins who thought he was weak, handled threats from rivals who saw his reformation as opportunity to attack. But he was no longer making life or death decisions daily, was no longer carrying a gun everywhere, was no longer the man who came home with blood on his clothes and refused to explain. "You are still in danger," I pointed out. "You mentioned 3 assassination attempts. I am in less danger than I was," Luca corrected, "and I have taken steps to mitigate risk, better security, smarter choices about where I go and when. I am not reckless like I used to be, because you are in therapy now. I could not keep the skepticism from my voice, because I have something to live for now," he corrected. "A goal beyond just surviving or maintaining power. I want to build a life worth living, and that requires being alive." "What is the goal?" I asked. "What are you building toward?" "A life where I do not have to lie about what I do, where my work does not require hurting people, where I can sleep at night without wondering who will try to kill me tomorrow." He paused. "A life where, if I am very fortunate, someone like you might be able to be part of it without fear." There it was, the real answer. He was doing all of this to win me back. "Luca," I started, but he held up a hand. "I am not asking you to come back, not asking for promises or commitments. I am just asking you to see that change is possible, that the man you loved might still exist under all the damage, that maybe, someday, if I keep working, I could be someone you could trust again. Trust is hard to rebuild," I said softly. "You broke it so thoroughly, made me feel invisible every time you chose the family over me, made me question my own worth every time you walked into danger despite my fear." "I know," his voice was rough, "and I spent a year in therapy understanding why I did that, why I chose obligation over love, why I convinced myself that providing for you financially was the same as showing up emotionally. It was not." Tears threatened again. "I did not need your money. I needed you, the real you, the man who laughed with me, who dreamed with me, who was not always 3 steps away mentally even when we were in the same room. I robbed us of that." Luca's hand moved across the table, not quite touching mine. "I got lost in being the boss, in maintaining control, in proving I was strong enough to handle what my father had left me, and I sacrificed us in the process. Our food arrived. We ate in silence for a while, the familiar flavors bringing back memories of happier times, when we had been young and hopeful and convinced nothing could break us. "Tell me about your year," Luca said eventually, "about building Isabella Chen Consulting, about life without me." So I did. I told him about the terror of starting over, the small apartment I had rented with money I had saved secretly, the first consulting contract I had landed through sheer determination, the slow building of a client base. I told him about learning to sleep alone after 5 years of sharing a bed, about cooking for one, about slowly remembering who I was before I became a mob wife. I told him about the therapy I had started, about unpacking the trauma of living in constant fear, about learning that his behavior, while not physically abusive, had still been damaging, that control and isolation, even done from love, were still forms of harm. I told him about the grief, about mourning him like he had died, about finally accepting that the man I married was not coming back, that he had been consumed by his responsibilities, and I told him about the slowly growing sense of peace, of freedom, of being able to make choices without considering how they would impact his world, of building something entirely my own. He listened without interrupting, let me speak, accepted my truths without defensiveness. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You should not have had to do that alone. I should have fought harder to keep you, should have recognized what I was losing before it was too late." "You could not," I said, "because you were not capable then. Maybe you are now. Maybe the man sitting across from me is different. But the man I left was not capable of change because he did not believe he needed to." "You are right," Luca agreed. "I thought I was doing everything right. Thought providing for you and protecting you through power was love. Did not understand that real love requires vulnerability, not strength. Presence, not provision." The restaurant owner appeared, cleared our plates, brought us dessert we had not ordered. The same tiramisu we had shared 7 years ago. He winked, delighted by his own romantic gesture. After he left, Luca pulled out his phone. "May I show you something?" He opened his photo gallery, scrolled through, handed me the phone. On the screen was a picture of a property. Beautiful, modern, overlooking the ocean. "I bought this 6 months ago," he explained. "It is being renovated. Nothing to do with family business, just mine. Clean title, legally purchased, completely legitimate." "It is beautiful." I handed back the phone. "But I do not understand what you are showing me." "I am showing you the future I am building." Luca's voice was earnest. "A place where I can be just Luca, not the boss, not the heir to a criminal empire, just a man trying to build a good life." He scrolled to another photo. A home office, bookshelves, a desk facing windows with an ocean view. "I designed this space for 2, he said quietly. 2 desks, 2 chairs, space for 2 people to work side by side, because even when I was building it, I was hoping that maybe someday you would want to work there, that maybe we could build something together again." I stared at the photos, my heart aching. "Luca, this is not fair. I know." He put the phone away. "I am not trying to pressure you. Just showing you that the change is not theoretical. It is concrete. I am building a different life. Whether you are ever part of it or not, I am building it." The meal ended. Luca paid, and we walked out into the Roman night. The Trevi fountain glittered nearby, coins from 1,000 wishes shimmering under the water. "Shall we?" Luca gestured toward the fountain. We walked together, not touching, but close. The fountain was crowded with tourists taking photos and throwing coins. Legend said if you threw a coin over your shoulder into the fountain, you would return to Rome. I pulled out €1, prepared to throw it. "Wait." Luca's hand caught my wrist, gently. "Can I tell you what I am wishing for?" "You are not supposed to say your wish aloud," I reminded him. "It will not come true." "I do not care about superstition." His eyes held mine. "I want you to know. I am wishing that someday, when you are ready, you will give me another chance. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. That you will believe I have changed enough to be worth the risk." "And if I do not?" I asked. "If I decide the past is too painful, that I cannot trust you again, then I will accept it." Luca released my wrist. "We'll be grateful for this time. We'll continue building my new life, and hope that someday I meet someone who can benefit from all the work I have done, becoming better. Though I suspect I will spend the rest of my life comparing them to you, and finding them wanting." I turned away, throwing my coin without answering. I did not know what I was wishing for. Did not know if second chances were possible or wise. "I should get back to my hotel," I said. "Early meetings tomorrow." "Of course." Luca made no move to touch me. "May I walk you there?" I nodded. We walked in silence through the ancient streets, past monuments that had stood for thousands of years, past churches and piazzas where countless dramas had played out. At my hotel entrance, I paused. "Thank you for dinner, for being honest, for showing me the changes. Thank you for giving me the chance." Luca's smile was sad. "I know I do not deserve it, but I am grateful for it anyway." I turned to go inside, then stopped. "Luca, one more thing. Anything. If you enjoyed this emotional reunion and want to find out if Isabella and Luca can truly start over, or if the past is too broken to repair, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for the conclusion of their story." I started to ask the question that had been haunting me. Then I stopped. Some questions were too dangerous, too revealing of the hope I was trying to suppress. "Never mind," I whispered. "Good night, Luca. Good night, Isabella." He did not move until I was inside. The door closed between us. But I watched him through the glass. He stood there for a long moment, hands in his pockets, looking up at the hotel like he could see which window was mine. Then he turned and walked away into the Roman night. I stood in the lobby, my heart pounding, wondering what I had just done, wondering if I had opened a door better left closed, wondering if hope was a gift or a curse. My phone buzzed. A text from Luca. "Thank you for tonight, for listening, for giving me the chance to show you. Whatever you decide, I want you to know that knowing you has been the greatest gift of my life, even when it ended, even now, always. Sleep well, Bella." I stared at the text, tears streaming down my face. Bella. He had not called me that in so long. His beautiful, his love. I typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on one. "Sleep well, Luca." That night, I lay in my hotel bed and let myself remember, really remember, not just the pain and fear and loneliness, but the good parts too. The man who had made me laugh, who had held me when I cried, who had promised to love me forever and had meant it, even if he had not known how to do it right. Was that man still in there? Under all the damage and trauma and years of being someone he was not supposed to be? Was a year enough time to change? To heal? To become someone different? I did not have answers, but for the first time in a year, I let myself consider the possibility that maybe, just maybe, second chances were not always foolish. Maybe sometimes they were brave. The next morning, I woke to another text from Luca. "Just wanted to let you know I am here if you want to talk more. Or if you would prefer space, I respect that too. Whatever you need." The consideration, the respect for my boundaries, was so different from the man I had left. That man would have pushed, would have demanded, would have assumed he knew what I needed better than I did. I responded, "I have meetings all day, but maybe dinner again tomorrow, before our flights? I would love that." His response was immediate. "Same place? Or somewhere new?" "Somewhere new," I decided. "Let us build new memories instead of recreating old ones." He sent me a restaurant suggestion. I agreed. We made plans like 2 people dating for the first time, instead of 2 people trying to resurrect something that had died. My meetings that day were productive. I impressed the tech firm's executives with my analysis, secured the contract extension I had been hoping for, proof that Isabella Chen was building something real and sustainable. But through it all, my mind kept drifting to Luca, to the changes he claimed, to the life he was building, to the dangerous hope growing in my chest. That evening, I returned to my hotel to find flowers waiting. A simple bouquet, wildflowers my favorite, not the elaborate roses Luca used to send because they impressed clients. The card read, "For Isabella Chen. Congratulations on your success. I knew you would be brilliant. L." I sat on my bed, holding the flowers, crying, because he remembered, because he was paying attention, because the small gesture was more meaningful than all the expensive gifts he had showered me with during our marriage. The next day passed similarly. Work, meetings, success, and underneath it all, anticipation for dinner. We met at a restaurant near the Pantheon. Modern, elegant. Nothing like the family place from before. We were creating something new. Over dinner, we talked about everything and nothing. Books we had read, shows we had watched, travel we wanted to do, surface things that slowly went deeper. I told him about my fear that I was not cut out for relationships, that maybe I was too damaged now to trust anyone. He told me about his fear that he had become his father, that despite all the therapy and work, the patterns were too ingrained to truly change. We talked about loneliness, about what it meant to start over, about how terrifying and exhilarating it was to build new lives from the ruins of old ones. By the end of dinner, I realized something crucial. I enjoyed talking to him, enjoyed his company, not because of who we used to be, but because of who we were becoming. "Our flights are tomorrow," I said as we walked out into the night. "Yours is morning, mine is afternoon." "Yes." Luca's voice was careful. "Isabella, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "These 3 days, seeing you, talking with you. It has been the best 3 days I have had in a year." He stopped walking, turned to face me. "I do not want them to end. I do not either. The admission hurt, but I do not know what that means. Do not know if this is just nostalgia, or if something real could be rebuilt. I am not asking you to know." Luca's hands found mine. "I am just asking if you would be willing to try, to keep talking, to let me continue proving that change is real, to see if maybe, slowly, trust could be rebuilt." "Long distance?" I challenged. "You in New York, me in Portland?" "I have been thinking about that," he said carefully. "My legitimate businesses can be run from anywhere. The properties I am developing, the investments I am managing, none of them require me to be in New York specifically. Portland has a strong real estate market, tech opportunities. It could be a good base of operations. If you were open to me being in the same city, not in your space, just available if you wanted to see me." I stared at him. "You would move to Portland. For me. I would move anywhere for you." Luca's voice was intense. would do anything, be anything, change everything if it meant a chance at rebuilding what we lost. But only if you want that. Only if the idea does not terrify you. It terrifies me, I admitted, because I do not know if I can survive losing you again. The first time almost destroyed me. A second time might finish the job. Then we go slowly. Luca's thumbs trace circles on my palms. We date, like new people. Build trust gradually. You set the pace. You call the boundaries. And if at any point you decide it is not working, we stop. No pressure. No guilt. That sounds too good to be true. I pulled my hands back. People do not actually change like that. Do not become exactly what their ex-wife needs right when she is starting to consider forgiveness. Maybe, Luca acknowledged, or maybe pain is a good teacher. Maybe losing you taught me lessons I could not learn any other way. Maybe desperation made me do work I would not have done otherwise. I have spent a year becoming someone who could deserve you if you ever gave me another chance. That is true, whether you believe it or not. But the only way to prove it is time. And I am asking for that time. I looked at this man who had been my greatest love and my deepest wound, at the hope in his eyes, at the sincerity that felt real but might just be manipulation so skilled I could not see it. And I thought about staying scared forever, about protecting myself so thoroughly that I never risked being hurt again, about spending my life wondering what if. Okay, the word came out before I could reconsider. Okay, we can try. Slow, careful, with clear boundaries, but we can try. The smile that broke across Luca's face was brilliant. Thank you. You will not regret this. I promise you. I will spend every day proving you made the right choice. Do not make promises you cannot keep. I warned. Just show up. Be honest. Do the work. That is all I am asking. I can do that. Luca pulled me into a hug and I let him. Let myself be held. Let myself feel safe in his arms for the first time in a year. We stood there on a Roman street holding each other. Two broken people trying to figure out if their pieces could fit back together. 6 months later, I stood in my Portland apartment, looking at boxes. Luca's boxes. He had moved to the city 3 months ago, as promised, had rented his own place across town, had given me space while being consistently present. We had dated slowly, coffee every week, dinners twice a week. Gradual rebuilding of trust. He had been patient, respectful of boundaries, had shown up when he said he would, and called when he would be late. He had continued therapy, had introduced me to his therapist with my permission so we could do some joint sessions, had been open about his struggles and his progress. And slowly, so slowly I almost did not notice, I had started to trust him again, started to believe the change was real, started to think maybe second chances were possible. Now, he was moving in, not because I had to let him, because I wanted to, because I had watched him for 6 months and seen consistent evidence that he was different, because I had done my own work in therapy, had learned to set boundaries, had developed the tools to recognize manipulation if it appeared, had built enough strength to walk away if I needed to, but I did not think I would need to. The man unpacking boxes in my guest room was not the man I had divorced. He was someone new, someone better, someone who had earned a second chance through consistent action. Luca appeared in the doorway. Where do you want me to put my books? The living room has space on the shelves. I gestured. We can rearrange if we need more room. He moved to start organizing books, and I watched him. Still handsome, still intense, but softer now, more present, more real. Thank you, he said without looking up, for giving me this chance, for believing I could change. Thank you for actually changing, I corrected, for doing the work, for proving it was not just words. He looked up then, his gray eyes holding mine. I love you. I know we agreed to take things slow. I know I am probably not supposed to say it yet, but I need you to know. I love you, Isabella, the way I should have loved you all along, with respect and presence and partnership. I love you too. The admission was easier than I expected. Still scary, still risky, but true. I love the man you have become, the man you are choosing to be. He crossed the room, pulled me into his arms. We stood there surrounded by boxes and the detritus of combining lives, and I felt something I had not felt in years. Hope, real, solid hope, that this time would be different, that we had both learned enough and changed enough and grown enough to make this work. 1 year after our divorce, we had boarded the same flight by pure coincidence, had been forced to confront everything we had lost and everything we had become in the absence of each other. And now, 6 months later, we were building something new, not a resurrection of what had died, but a new relationship built on the foundation of hard-won wisdom and genuine change. It would not be perfect. We both knew that. There would be hard days, moments when old patterns tried to reassert themselves, times when fear threatened to overwhelm trust. But we had tools now, had support systems, had the willingness to show up and do the hard work of real partnership. And that, I thought as Luca kissed me surrounded by moving boxes and possibility, was enough, maybe more than enough. That night, as we fell asleep in our bed, I thought about the impossibility of it all, that a random seat assignment on a flight to Rome could change everything, that 8 hours trapped at 30,000 feet could crack open wounds and reveal healing, that sometimes the universe gave you second chances in the most unexpected ways. I had boarded that flight 1 year after divorce, unaware my ex-husband would sit beside me, unaware that confronting the past would become the doorway to a different future. I had expected the flight to be uneventful, a simple journey from one place to another. Instead, it had been the beginning of a journey back to love, different love, better love, love built on truth instead of denial. As I drifted off to sleep, Luca's arm around me, I sent a silent thank you to the universe, for coincidence, for courage, for second chances, and for the wisdom to know that sometimes the person you run from becomes the person you run toward, once you have both become people worth running to. Our story had ended once, had ended badly, with pain and tears and the kind of heartbreak that leaves permanent scars. But it was beginning again now, not as a continuation of what had been, but as something entirely new. Two people who had loved and lost each other, who had done the hard work of becoming better versions of themselves, who had been given an impossible coincidence, and chosen to see it as an opportunity. 1 year after divorce, I had boarded a flight unaware my ex-husband sat beside me. 6 months after that, I let him move into my home, into my life, into my heart again, and it was not easy, was not perfect, was not the fairy tale reconciliation where everything magically healed, but it was real, and it was ours, and it was worth every terrifying step of trust it took to build. That was enough. That was everything. That was love, real love, second chance love, the kind that only comes after you have both been broken and learned how to heal, the kind worth fighting for, worth risking for, worth choosing every single day, forever,